All right, here we go. In 3, 2, 1. 92Q Nashville's R&B and Throwbacks. It is a 615 Wake Up. And we have a special guest in the studio today. Want to talk about something that's a little bit of a situation that's going on inside of Davidson County when it comes to property values. And no other person really had that conversation than who, sis?
Our Nashville property assessor, Vivian Wilhoite, is here in the studio. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you all for having me.
Her and her team, you too, lady. Her and her team are responsible for the valuation of 274,000 commercial and residential properties, over 274,000. Okay, so just so you know who we're speaking to, they do the whole valuation for that. But let's talk about this first. We're going to get right into the meat and potatoes. There's significant property tax issues, primarily driven by soaring property values from the 2025 reappraisal and the Metro Council's decision to adopt a budget with a higher tax rate than the certified revenue neutral rate. Now, according to sources, this has resulted in large bill tax increases, threatening the viability of some longtime residents and small residents. And we've done a couple of stories on here about those substantial amounts. So our first question is, why is this happening?
Well, first of all, I want to clear something up.
Okay.
I'm not responsible, nor is my amazing staff. It's responsible for the tax bill, the increased tax bill that you're receiving. The taxes have to be levied by the Metro Council and the mayor. So when they levy the tax, meaning set the tax rates for the urban services district and the general services district, they're telling property owners what you're going to pay. So that is their job. That's the state constitution, and that is who has that authority. Now, in my wheelhouse is the valuing of property. We must give you a value in the reappraisal year, which was every 4 years. But now it's going to every 3 years, which is going to be in 2028 when it's the next reappraisal. But in every 4 years, we must give you a new value based on the market. You can use your eyes to see what's going on around Nashville, but we use data in reference to sales, looking at sales that have occurred in your neighborhood similar to your property. So we must do that. That's the law. That is our job. We're not doing it where we're pulling, values out the sky from different parts of our bodies. We are actually giving you values based on the market. Now, it is done in a mass appraisal approach. When you go to the bank and you want to borrow money, they will, and you use your home as your leverage for getting that loan, they will say, okay, well, how much is your home worth? So they give you a value. They find out how much is it worth, and is this loan really good for them to take advantage of and lend you the money? Because of course, if you don't pay your loan back on time, they're going to do what? Take your home, right? Okay, so that's a fee appraisal. What we do is mass appraisal. That is where we are valuing right now more than 281,000 parcels, residential and businesses, and giving those property owners a value based on the market. Now, if we don't do it based on the market and do it in that approach, we could be taken over by the state of Tennessee to do it for us. We're not going to let that happen. We just want to be fair. We want to be equitable, and we want to be transparent. So that is what our job is, and we must do that job in a way that is already governed by the state of Tennessee.
Okay.
Now, what is possible though, once we give you that value, because in a mass appraisal, there could be some highs, there could be some lows. That's a mass appraisal. We're not going inside your home, every home, right? So when that happens, the property owner gets the opportunity to appeal. They can appeal.
And that is my next question.
You cannot appeal your tax rate, though. Once that tax rate increases, you can't appeal that.
According to sources,
can appeal your value.
Thousands of property owners filed appeals with your office after receiving their valuations, but 2/3 of informal interview requests after that were denied. What is the reason for the denials when you deny?
Well, the mass appraisal is based on based on sales that occurred in the 2024 year. So, Sister Sissy, if you walk in with a value in 2025, we can't look at that. That is not what the appraisal is based on. So if you're using a recent sale in the 2025 year, we can't look at that. That's going to be something that we're not going to consider. And some people come in and yes, God forbid, we understand how Nashville is growing. Nashville is a destination. Again, your eyes can tell you that. But we're only wanting to give you what we're supposed to do in the way that we're governing to provide you with that value. Some people come and said, I can't afford this. We understand that. That tears at our heart. But that's not what we are That's not what we are instructed to do in reference to giving that type of focus in reference to giving you a value. For that matter, you're not being fair. One person may say they're not able to pay it, while another person just said, I just don't think my value is what it is. We want people to come in with the information they're supposed to come in with because, again, it's a mass appraisal, some highs, some lows, and there's information they can tell us about their property, such as the fact I have had a fire in my kitchen, or I've had a leak in my home, but they weren't able to get it repaired. So we're going to trust and verify, come out there and check that out. If they say that there's some other things that have happened to their property, there are certain times that we can adjust that property in reference to its value, and we will do so. Again, we're not trying to make money for the county because we can't. You know why? The reappraisal is revenue neutral.
Sean.
So Lower Broadway specifically, there's been a lot of business owners complaining down there because they've seen somewhere of around 300% increase in their property value. So are we saying that
are you okay with that?
Their value in 2024 is
okay.
justified? You're saying that what they made in 2024 is justification for a 300% increase?
What I'm saying when I say okay, because sister, you understand this. When I say okay, I'm listening. Okay.
Oh, okay.
I'm taking
yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay.
So let's talk about what happened in 2021. 2021, as I said, the reappraisals every 4 years. In 2021, that's when we did the reappraisals. I stated to you earlier, if the listening audience is listening, they heard me say that we look at values that happened in what? Prior year, right? Mm-hmm. What was going on in 2020? COVID.
Yeah.
That's right. And so in 2021, in any reappraisal, we must give someone a value based on the market as if they put a for sale sign in their yard on January 1 of that reappraisal year. So January 1 of 2021, we have to consider 2020. It was a COVID.
So you're considering COVID and not...
Wait, just one moment.
You're considering the disease?
Okay. No. We're considering the impact. Okay. Those properties that are commercial, whether they're hotels, whether they're businesses like retail, or whether they're bars, they're being impacted by the pandemic. We're not saying the disease itself is how it impacts you. The same way if your house caught on fire, it impacts your value if you don't get it repaired by a certain time of the year. It's impact.
Give us one moment. Can you turn your phone off? Is that your phone that's ringing? It keeps ringing and doing some things, and we can hear it.
It's my husband calling me. Stop calling me Larry.
Okay. Okay.
So anyway, with that being said, we wanted to ensure that we did it right. Because every assessor around the United States out of 3,000 counties was wondering, how do you value property in a pandemic, right? So we brought in experts to help us with capitalization rates and various things like that. And what we did a reduction on all of those property, not just downtown, commercial property, period, that were impacted by the pandemic. 4 years later, the pandemic is supposedly beyond, but in a really business way it is. And guess what? Values are back. So check this out. Those are post-pandemic values. Now, when they sell their property, if you've seen recently some of the sales, I said we have to consider sales. All right, so take Jack Barbecue. It sold for $15 million. We had it on for $68 million. Jelly Roll put his property up for $100 million. We had it just a little bit over maybe $60, $70 million. And John Bon Jovi just put up their property for $130 million. So if we got the values at $68 million for these examples I just gave you, does that say that we're high or does that say that we could be low? So the thing is, you can't have it both ways. And we're not trying to stick it to the property owner. We're only trying to be fair and equitable and transparent. And that's what we did. And so, it is what it is. But now coming to the point, they have the opportunity to appeal. We want them to appeal. We just want to get it right. So if you think that your property that is valued by the assessor of property and the amazing staff of the assessor of property at $68 million, but you sell it for $100 million, are you saying that you're not worth $68 million, or are you saying you're worth $100 million? We have to look at sales.
So what is the success rate of these appeals at this point? Are you seeing some changes based off of what the evidence they're bringing in, or is it more they're being denied than being approved?
Okay, well, there's 3 steps. There's 3 bites at the apple that a property owner gets, right? The first bite of the apple is the informal review request. That's where you would provide us with information about your property. Just let us know. You can do it yourself by looking at the sales online at padc10.org. Every sale in Nashville is on our website. If you want to pull out some sales that you believe are sales that substantiate what you believe your property should be. But nonetheless, that is the first step, and it is a courtesy step. We don't have to provide the informal review request, but we want to get it right. That's the reason why we do it. So this year we had a unprecedented amount of appeals for the informal review. It was 19,228 review appeals for a 94-person staff. And they all worked overtime and what have you to review each request that came in. Again, if you're not providing information that we can use, we just can't be subjective. We have to be definitive in reference to how we're governed in order to make these decisions, right? Okay, so about two-thirds of those were denied, I believe, in that sense. However, you get the opportunity to appeal again at the Independent Metro Board of Equalization, which I think that's what you're speaking of right now, Sean. The Independent Metro Board of Equalization is a 5-person board that is appointed by the mayor and confirmed by the Metro Council. They're not our board. They're the mayor's board, okay? So you got this independent board that is volunteering their time and wanting to come in and do a public service. There are also alternates that are on that board as well. And we've always kept every administration up to date in reference to where we are in reference to appeals in assisting the Metro Board of Equalization, because it's not our board. Again, it's the mayor's board. Once again, this year there was an unprecedented number of 15,298 appeals that were filed to the Independent Metro Board of Equalization. Independent, that means you have a life, you have a family, you have a job, you're volunteering your time. Now we must schedule these for them. That is our job, to assist them by state. We do not intervene in reference to their decision or anything like that. They must make the decision, and if we disagree with their decision, we have the authority to appeal their decision. To
So the
state
appeals
board.
can just keep going back and forth, basically.
Right.
So 19,000,
Well, no,
over
no,
19,000,
no,
you said.
no.
Wait, well, let me ask this: over 19,000, you said filed an appeal. 15,000 of those went to that board.
Not necessarily. It could have been people who did not file an informal review request.
So they
and
can go
decided
directly to that board
they
and
can
just skip you.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Again, it's a courtesy. They don't have to. It's not a requirement. Now, to the State Board of Equalization, it is required that you go to the Independent Metro Board of Equalization first before you go to the State Board of Equalization. There's a method to the madness.
So a
No doubt
lot
about
of
it.
homeowners are believing that the appeals process, the complexity of it is just difficult. So, and
No.
especially because the timing, and you said you have a small staff that's trying to handle all this present number of appeals. So, would you say that there's some room for improvement on this appeal process?
Well, there's always room for improvement, even on a radio show. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Girl, no,
Okay.
you're not trying to go there.
No,
No, that ain't what we talking about.
But no, we having fun here.
I
I'm
know,
just saying.
but I was like,
No, but I'm saying, is it true? It's always improving, right? So guess one of the things that I'm very proud about, that we've done a lot of improvement in our office. We have credential staff in the appeals and modeling division, and we have also, in reference to how I look at people who are hired, when they were first hired, they're only making $32,000 a year. I think that was just crazy, but we have people who have graduated from college, got degrees in math, what have you, and everything that we look for, and we put them on a path as soon as they come into our office to get their credentials. But I want to go back to, in reference to the 15,000 appeals to the Independent Metro Board of
Wait, you
Equalization.
didn't answer that question though. What he asked you?
I said there's always room for improvement. I did.
What do you think?
what do you think?
think?
He said, what do
right
you-
now?
go ahead.
If you could make what improvements do you think you would put in place if you could?
Yeah.
Well, as far as an improvement, it's not my board, but I've asked the mayor to add more people to the as alternates. We've
Okay.
given that information. We've also asked, about, can you have a concurrent board running at the same time, because the board has to a new board has to convene on June 1st of each year, and this board is not going to be done by then, right? To convene for a 2026 year. However, the same board can convene for the 2026 year and still be working on the 2025 tax year, because it has not adjourned, because they're still listening to the hearings that have been scheduled. In some way, but going back to the State Board of Equalization in reference to you were saying earlier, it's not that the fact that, this board is behind in reference to them listening to the hearings. I gave someone an example the other day. Again, these are volunteers. They don't work for Metro. They just do public service. They have lives, and they can only listen to or hear the hearings only when they're scheduled, how they can come in, because you have to have a quorum, right? So, someone made a statement, well, they get paid. Well, they get paid $100 a day, and you expect them to be all day, and they have lives. They have
that's what they signed up for, right?
Well, no, we can't look at it like that when people are volunteering and not expecting that there was going to be a substantial amount of appeals.
That's like an asterisk. There may be, there's none of that. It's just you want to sign up for $100 a day, yes or no?
Well, I disagree. It wasn't $100 a day. It just turned to be $100 a day.
Okay.
It was $50 a day.
Okay, so
and then it was
sign it. You don't know what you're signing up for. Sign up and say yes. Is that what it was?
Well, I tell you what, if they all were to quit, then we would be in trouble. We don't want that, and I don't speak to them like that. I tell them thank you for coming in.
Absolutely.
And they are doing it public service, and they and to say that they're behind, it's like calling the doctor for a doctor's appointment. If the doctor says that you called today and said the next available appointment is December the 15th, that's the next available appointment. That does not make it behind. The State Board of Equalization does the very same thing. Well, about 2 years ago, they had 2,000 appeals. Now they have about 890 left from 2 years ago. That's just not how it's looked at. And when you talk about human bodies giving of themselves, I'm very appreciative that they're there. Even though it's not my board, I'm very appreciative that they're there because they're providing a public service to the people of Davis County.
Absolutely.
So we're going to, we appreciate your time, first of all, for coming in and having this conversation.
My
One of
pleasure.
the last things I'll ask is that is there any concern in your office, in the mayor's office, when it comes to these, especially business owners that consider maybe pulling their business out of Broadway because of the property values of 300% increase and their tax bills are ginormous, and so they're looking at their revenue, they're looking at what they're paying in taxes, and it's not making sense to stay in this place. So some of them, not saying they're going to do it, but have been considering, maybe I just don't do that here because my revenue is not making sense based off of this tax bill, so I'll pull the business out. Is there a concern that we could lose businesses on Broadway because of this?
Well, let me first of all make something clear. I didn't raise the tax rate.
Correct.
The tax rate,
Right.
But,
That's
we
not
get
what
that.
But I have to preference that to go to my answer.
Okay.
And what I'm saying is that we are required to give property owners their value in a reappraisal year. Yes, that's a concern for not just property owners or businesses. It concerns me if somebody could lose their home. What about that person that owns a property? So I get that. That's the reason why we get out and talk about appealing. We talk about when to take the opportunity to do what is in your right to do. We talk about also tax freeze, tax relief, and tax deferral. Those are programs for people who have homes, so to make sure that they can be able to get assistance in reference to their tax payments and what have you. Then there's also programs with I can't think of it, but anyway, Metro Social Services, they also have a tax assistance program. So we always talk about resolve, and I appreciate Reverend Representative Love for the work that he's done on the Hill to increase the amount of income that a person can receive in order to get on these programs. But back to the businesses, I just want to be clear that, in 2021, we gave them a pandemic value.
Right.
And it was very low.
Right.
So now the pandemic is back. And if the requirements of the position is to give you a value based on the market, and we're low in reference to what they're selling for, which those sales sets the market. When you sell your home, you're beginning to set the market for everyone around
Absolutely.
you.
I'm a real estate agent, so I understand that clearly.
So what we have to do, we verify those sales to make sure there aren't biases in those sales, that you're not selling to your sister and to your mother, or it's the fact that you've gotten a divorce, or it's a bankruptcy. We remove those type of sales. We don't look for qualified sales. But in reference to what we have to provide as the value, it is the value. And then when you have the opportunity to appeal, you appeal. So yes, I'm concerned about all of that. I've talked to those property owners. I picked up the phone and called property owners. I've met with Layla of downtown. I've talked to them to help them understand how we are required to do it. I mean, anything subjective that we do, we could be taken over by the state of Tennessee. We can't do that. And we are constantly audited in reference to our work. Also, I want to make the point that when we give you that value is over 4 years. Sean. It's not over last year. It's what your appreciation has happened since the last reappraisal. So even though your property is appreciating in 2022, 2023, 2024, that value doesn't change unless you make an improvement to that property. And that improvement could be expansion of your space. And that improvement can be rehab, totally gutting out the property itself. But also, we have to recognize if something has impacted that property, such as a fire, a flood. So we have to go out and look at that and adjust that value downward because of that. So it's not over 1 year, it's over 4 years.
Correct.
And you yourself, as a realtor, have seen what has been going on in Nashville. We have no control over the market. Anybody say they can have control of the market, they must have a crystal ball or something, because you don't. And pray for and pray to God that we don't have a turnaround or an upside down where people in these properties that they bought for sight unseen, they're not going to be worth anything. So
Real quick, what's the website that someone can go to for more information for businesses and homeowners for reference?
padctn.org.
padctn.org.
Yes, and of course, in the first notice that went out to let people know about their values back in April, by the way, the tax rate was increased in June. So the administration and everyone in Nashville who we mailed it to, we were talking about, hey, values have increased. Here's your new value. This is what you do. This tells you everything that you need to do. It tells you about tax rates, everything, how it works. It's all there.
Okay.
It's all there. It's on our website as well. And we want property owners to know how this works so they can take advantage of the availability of what is within their right to do. And when there are decisions made, you can make an appeal every year. The next time you can make an appeal is January the 26th, 2026 for the tax year of 2026. The deadlines for all of 2025 have passed, unfortunately, because, of course, they started in April and they ended in June the 17th, if I'm not mistaken. June 17th of this year. So it starts all over again. In January.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
So, and we'll have to wrap this up, but the biggest, we really wanted to have a conversation because a lot of people don't understand this process.
I agree.
And a lot of people are not understanding the evaluation period. And so bringing you into the studio was really about the education piece and in voicing some of the concerns, which you're hearing the concerns from consumers, from residents, homeowners, and from some of these business owners. And the biggest thing is making sure that everybody has a ground understanding of how this works. And they know that if they have other questions, if they want to appeal, they can connect with your office and get that process started.
Absolutely, Sean. Let me tell you, I've been trying to get on this show.
No, we've been calling you, girl.
Right. Well, I haven't got any phone calls that I'm aware of.
We've been calling on you. Let me change the wording. We've been calling on you.
Well, let me just say that I want to give a shout out to Victoria. Victoria, we were on the bus ride to the game of the Tennessee State University playing UT Martin last Saturday. I sent a picture to Mr. Kenny Smooth.
Yeah, we got it.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
And they were saying, girl, they were talking about you on 92Q. I said, well, let me get on there. Hey, I'm not afraid to answer the questions because there's two things that hurt people. Truth and lie, they cut the same, right? Well, we stand on truth.
Yeah.
So I want people to understand. I want to get on every show. I don't care if it's a conservative show. It doesn't matter. People need to understand how it works. And sometimes they may miss this, or they may miss the 92Q show.
Right.
Or they may miss some of the show. You have to keep on educating people. And that's why I care so much about Davidson County property owners. I know that door is revolving. And the constituency that are in that door are my constituents too. So I care.
Awesome. Well, Property Assessor Vivian Wilhoite, thank you so much for coming in the studio.
Thank you very much.
Giving some really good information. And what is the website again?
padctn.org.
And if anybody listening today, they have a question, please send it to me, vivian.wilhoite@nashville.gov. That is spelled vivian.wilhoite at nashville.gov, and we will answer your questions. My amazing staff is off the chain and ready to roll again.
Wow. Property Assessor Vivian Wilhoite,
ma'am.
thank you so much for joining the show. We really appreciate it. It's the 615 Wake Up right here on 92Q.
And boom.
Got it.